born to walk through the fire. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My mama raised me to be. And if you knew my grandmother, you'd understand what I mean. I was born for this mission. Do not need no permission to be who I was born to be.
Welcome to another episode of I Thought We Wanted Change, where we have real conversations with real people who speak the unapologetic truth. I am your host, Sister Akimbade. Today's conversation may make some people uncomfortable, and that's okay. Growth rarely happens in comfort. So, tonight we're talking about the complicated and often painful reality of mother and daughter relationships and why, in some cases, mothers and daughters do not get along. More specifically, we're naming a truth that many daughters live quietly with and sometimes feel like a mother may feel jealousy towards them or just straight not like them. So, this is not a conversation about hating mothers. This is a conversation about telling the truth. So, for generations, society has told us that a mother's love is unconditional by default. And if there's conflict, the daughter must be ungrateful, she must be disrespectful or rebellious. And most of the time, that's not even the truth. That narrative leaves no room for the humanity of mothers, nor does it acknowledge the damage that unhealed wounds can cause. So, tonight we have a panel of beautiful women who are willing to share their stories and offer some insight and advice for those. I'm gonna have to ask y'all to mute, please, until I finish speaking. So there are a lot of people, a lot of women out there that may be struggling with the same issues or similar issues. So these are real women on a panel with real stories who are speaking lived experiences. So before we begin, I would like to go around the panel and have each one of these beautiful ladies introduce themselves. So,
Hi, my name is Dr. Niseba. I'm coming to you from the Metro Atlanta area. I am 52 years old. I have a mother and a sister, and I'll be sharing my experiences about what that's like and things that I've gone through.
Hello, my name is Candy Shanae Williams. I am actually, how would I like to say, I am a certified life coach. I have actually been really researching these types of things, so I'm really excited to be able to tell my story. It definitely has a different dynamic of the mother and daughter than most people might think of. So I'm really excited to be here to tell my story with you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Asada X from Akron, Ohio, and um, I hate talking. I'm just kidding, but I'm just an LC from Huey P. Newton Gun Club, and I'm here to learn tonight and also share my story.
Peace, everybody. My name is Aisha Camilla Shaheed. I'm right here in Houston, Texas. I am a holistic practitioner, and I'm also a community organizer of Our Neighborhoods Powerfully United. And it's a blessing to be here with my good sis, Natural. Thank you for having me. And I'm excited about this conversation. It's a much needed conversation. I also think this conversation will help me can finish the rest of my healing to be able to do it with women and other sisters too as well. So I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you all for coming on. I'm very interested in this conversation myself because it's going to help me with a little bit of what I'm going through as well. I'm new to this experience. It's not a great feeling, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know who want to answer this first, but how would you describe your relationship with your mother growing up compared to where it is now?
Well, I'll go first.
I was gonna say, I'm like, you can go. I'll go. Like, okay, whoever.
All right, I'll go first. So, when I was growing up, my relationship with my mother was more of a parenting type of my way or the highway. I know better than you know. I think the typical things that we get as teenagers. Um, Whereas now, what I find is that she has a hard time letting go of the parenting part, and she's more. Uh, she has a really hard time with that. So I have to constantly remind her to give me advice only when I ask for it, to be more of a friend and not the parenting type. Because I understand you're always a mother, but we have our disagreements because we're very different people.
Our special guest, Candy Trinae.
Yes. My story is a little different. Is it can you hear me? I'm sorry. It's
Yes, please
Yep.
share. We can
skipping.
hear you.
Okay. When it comes to mother and daughter dynamic with me, I would have to say I can't really say how it was and how it is. My mother had passed away when I was 4 years old. So I didn't have my mother, but I had her mother, in which I would have to say it was pretty it was pretty bad because it's sort of like my mother died and I had to take over what she was supposed to be, per se. I was no longer, my mother's gone now. I have to take and be that person to her. So my grandmother was my mother, my grandmother, and my godmother. So my dynamic was totally different um, than a lot of people may have had. A lot of people might have been raised with their grandmothers. That happens a lot, but my grandmother was all these different titles, and it was really different dynamic to where being raised with her, having all those titles like control and things like that. So my whole life at 41 now, my life was a lot different with that type of mother daughter dynamic because my real mother was gone. So it was like I would say I felt more like property than her granddaughter per se, or even a daughter. You know what I'm saying? So being in a dysfunctional household, the dynamic was way off. So it's sort of a lot of people may have been through it, but mine was a little bit different because that's all I had. You know what I'm saying? And so um, to describe it, I really don't. It's really hard to describe. You know what I'm saying? It's really hard to describe because I don't know if that was even a parent or anything. It was just I was there per se. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit difficult for me to describe it. I don't even know if there was a dynamic. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, but yeah, my dynamic of a mother, I lost mine, inherited her toxic mother, and my life began. So mine was a little bit different.
Sister Aisha.
Yeah, I could say that growing up, because I was a child and I didn't understand and know many things, and because I had siblings, they made my childhood fun, and I did things as a child, but also I just do remember certain instances with my mother, just growing up with her, and being and just living with her and being having to adapt with her when she separated from my father, and even then it wasn't like it was some things that were going on that I couldn't understand because I couldn't understand what was going on with what I was being shown. But I would say as I gotten older, we have been able to navigate through some things, but it's still like kind of like a strange relationship. Um, and like you said, is not that anything that I have done is more so um, things that my mother is holding on to that she needs to let go, and that she has been projecting onto me. And because I'm her daughter and I'm younger, there's this individual hierarchy, and she's not able to receive the things that I say to her, even if they're right. Okay. And so that's just been, my portion, but I would say I've probably had better times and can navigate certain situations than I am now because I'm not willing to put up with it because I've learned, I've grown and I've outgrown those things. So that's my portion.
Well, before anybody else go, I'd like to piggyback off of Sister Aisha. Um, but first, whenever it comes to childhood, I think I had a pretty okay and decent relationship with my mother. My mother was not a very affectionate mother. And we didn't get the hugs and the kisses and things like that. Like we would go up to her and give her a hug, and she'll just be like, kind of like wipe it off and stuff. Kind of like in a playful manner. She wasn't very affectionate at all. So we didn't get that. But she was very protective over me because of a lot of things that I did go through in my younger years. Very protective over us as a whole, like siblings, very protective of us, sheltered us a lot. I believe, sheltered us a little bit too much with some things. I remember being, and I was so sheltered, right? Being in middle school and being laughed at in the eighth grade because I made a comment that babies come from storks. And I was just that innocent in my mind and that naive, thinking that babies came from storks because I was told a story about the stork coming down from the sky and had the little baby in the blanket. And I was so embarrassed by that. But, anyways, as I became older, my mother became, I wouldn't say like my best friend because I wouldn't want to be best friends with my mom. That's kind of weird. But I was able to confide in her and get advice from her when needed, not knowing that later on some of that would be thrown in my face whenever she gets upset. So it's kind of like the same thing with Sister Aisha. I felt a certain way. I wasn't rude or disrespectful. And as you know, West Indian parents, anytime you have something to say, you're being rude. You're too damn rude. But that's not the case. I just want to be heard. So it was not a way that I spoke to her. It was a simple fact that she was not willing to understand or try to understand what I was feeling and where I was coming from. So we kind of bumped heads in that situation because I felt like in some situations I was a scapegoat. I didn't really say much of things that were going on. You know, we have this code in a black family. What happens in the household stays in the household, right? But it was certain things that I had to say in order to save me and my siblings. But it's not like she didn't know these things were going on. But to the rest of my siblings, it was told, oh, I didn't know it was going on until she told me. And I kept that with me for so long, and I was the scapegoat for so long. And a little bit before my grandmother passed, which was recently, I explained to her how I felt, and I was like, I can't do that no more. I can't be your scapegoat. Some things you just have to take accountability for, and she didn't want to do that. So yeah, that's my little part of what's going on with me. So I'm just trying to deal with it. This is the first time I've ever dealt with a situation like this. So I haven't spoken to my mother. And do I feel as if I should right now? No, because sometimes it's best to separate and gather your thoughts before you say something that you would regret. So, who's next? Did everybody
I'll
speak?
go.
Okay.
I'll,
That's
I'll go ahead and go. My relationship with my mom was very rocky. Um, you know, per se, it came down to the point, I was dealing with my own issues of, being abandoned by her. So it was very rocky when it came down to time when she wanted to be like the mother figure. I kind of was like, don't touch my hair, things of that nature, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm still was dealing with my own issues of being left over there at the children's home, so our relationship wasn't like motherly like it should be. Like she tried to be a mom. Like I would visit her and have visitation and stuff with her. Like I remember one time during our session, she walked out. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Because I told her, don't touch my hair. You had done my hair since I was about 8 years old. Here I am, 11 years old, and she told me, well, let me fix your hair. And I'm like, no, I'm good. She gets mad and storms out to visit. I never saw my mom ever again. It might have been, I think I was a teenager when I seen her again, about 13. But our relationship was rocky, and it has been rocky up until maybe about 11 years ago. You know what I'm saying? It's not where it should be now, but I can see where she's trying. You know what I'm saying? But as I begin to start having children, that's when she would say things along the line of, you need to get your mind right to raise this baby. And my reply was, when um I gotta get your other name. King Bade said, Sister King Bade said, watch what you say. And my response to her was when she said, well, you need to get your mind right to raise this baby. And I said, well, you didn't raise us, so why should I listen to you? She hangs up the phone. you know, eh, it's like the truth. Maybe I could have worded it different. It's been about 20 something years now, but I could have worded things differently. But, at the time, I wasn't, thinking about how to reword things. I just was like blunt, like, you didn't raise me. Why should I listen to you? You know? So, I mean, our relationship has gotten better, but I noticed as she's getting older, she's trying to make up for things of my childhood, but you can't make up for it. But she's trying to do better, but she's still not the motherly grandma type of, I can't drop my kids off, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's still kind of rocky, but it's not where it was, but it's not where it should be, but it's getting better gradually, but, you know. I think it could improve, but it's still she still don't do all that grandma stuff with my kids and bake cookies with the kids. You know what I'm saying? Things that I really want her to do, she don't do. So, but I mean, it's a little better. But I'm standoffish myself too, though. But I mean, it's improving. But
Sometimes the way that you say things is the way that it comes out. The way it comes across is because of the way you feel. You may have felt like you could have worded better, but that's how you felt the moment. And I
right.
know sometimes words can be harsh, but it is what it is. Some people need to take accountability, and taking accountability for some of them is a hard thing to do. When did you first realize that something in your relationship felt strained or it felt unhealthy to you?
Are you asking me that?
Yes.
Um, when I was younger, I think I'm around when it was strained unhealthy. I think maybe like around 5 or 6, somewhere around there. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't, like right after the time when I got molested.
Mm.
It. I paid attention to how her reaction was. You know what I'm saying? I never forgot that. That her reaction was she just went down there and had a conversation. I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm thinking at 5 and 6 years old, I'm like, conversation? You didn't even think to rough this person up or, I watched how she handled it. You know what I'm saying? She really didn't handle it anyway at all. She just was like, just, that's when I started realizing right around that time that this can't be my mother because, you know, I, I went through a scenario similar like that with my daughter. She wasn't touched on or anything, but I was getting ready to go in for the kill. Like, and I'm just like, how can you sit here and not hurt the person who hurt your child? You know what I'm saying? I noticed this around 5 years old. That's where the first strain came in at because I'm just looking like I'm thinking, and even at the age of 7, how can you not feel some type of way about this person touching on me? You just calm. She was too calm. I'm like, so I say around 5 years old, 5 and 6 and 7, I started really paying attention to how my mother reacted towards things. It was a strain. I don't really think I ever got over that. I never mentioned it to her, but I noticed it about 5 years old.
Wow. Do you feel as if she probably didn't believe you or she didn't want to believe that it happened?
I think she believed me, but I think she just, as I stated, she just didn't have she wasn't equipped to, I think she believed me, but I think she was just in shock that it happened. You know what I'm saying? And she didn't want to face the music herself. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, it just was the too nonchalant that got my attention that I was looking at. I'm like, I was like, when I came up the steps, I didn't pull my pants down. Like I was nervous and out of fear. You know what I'm saying? I said I didn't pull my pants down. She went down there, argued with him, but then she come back up the steps. I'm like, that's it.
Mm-mm.
So I think she believed me, but I think the fact that she had to save face too because she was in my aunt's house. Uh, uh yeah.
For me, I think the strain came when I became a teenager because that's when I started to notice her lack of affection. That's when I started to notice that everything was forced. It was, I remember during the holidays, every holiday it was the same thing. It's Christmas. We supposed to love each other. It didn't come naturally. It was something she forced us to do, and it wasn't everybody, it was done in a joking way, but it wasn't really there, and I felt like when I was growing up that I was being used a lot. I felt like I was being used to cook and clean and I remember saying when I was a teenager, I was like, I am not a slave. And I felt like, but that's what I felt like, because I felt like, you know, it was my responsibility to do everything around there, you know, and, but yet I was supposed to be perfect in school and I was supposed to be perfect in this, and I wasn't. I was too busy out there in the streets doing everything but what I was supposed to be doing all through middle school and high school, and it's, I compared a lot of my friends' mothers to my mother. And in comparison, my other friends would say my mom was great, which I thought was interesting because, their mothers might have been dealing with drugs or their mothers might have been dealing with something else. And they're like, well, at least your mother's in the house. I'm like, yeah, all up in my damn face. Yeah, she's there all right, but and it's interesting because a lot of times, and I think a lot of people can understand what this is like. Just because your mom and your dad is there, it doesn't mean they're actually there. Sometimes they're just physically there, but they're not there for you. They're physically there, but they're not there emotionally. They're physically there to keep a roof over your head, but yet they cause a lot of pain and suffering. So, when people say I was raised with my mom, like, that's not always a good thing. And I honestly think a lot of times when I hear women say my mom didn't show affection, I honestly think that we as women get forced into motherhood, and some of us shouldn't be mothers. I think a lot of times, they'll say it's our responsibility to have children, or it's something that we should do, or if you're going to get married, it's something you have to do. But some of us aren't equipped for it. And some of our mothers weren't. They weren't ready. And they had us when they were way too young. They were too busy still kind of in the streets or just bad behaviors, or they weren't ready. And then here we come and we were just like trial and error, and I think that lack of affection was a big red flag that they just went through the motions because it was what they were supposed to do and we were their responsibility. So that's my thought.
Well, I feel
Anyone?
that in my household with my grandmother, the dynamic changed as I got older. Once I started looking more like my mother, right? Before it was, it was embracing and love, but as I got older, looking like her, it was like she was reminded of my mother. I was split an image of her. We looked alike. Then it was like sort of like my grandma already had a plan for me. Since she lost her daughter, my mother died at 20 years old. She had us and everything like that. She had a plan for us, down to even have a life insurance over us in case we died, like a trauma plan. So I lived in that, like every day of my life. Learning how to cook young, cleaning, doing everything like you were saying. Got me ready for life, but always told me you getting kicked out at 18. You know what I'm saying? So it was never like I felt like it was a home. It was always like more like your mother's gone, you here, but when you hit 18, you out. You know what I'm saying? So it was never, and then with me, it was traumatic because we didn't have anybody. We didn't have none of our family. My grandmother moved us up to a small town away from where we were originally at because of her own personal things. And we were just in a community of, we had nobody. We had nobody to tell what's going on. We had no family around. Our family is hours away. It was like we were in this like traumatic bubble of her life that she was like just running from things, and we were the secret per se. You know what I'm saying? So every day I had to, like I say, went back to ours was fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it everywhere. It doesn't matter how you feel. You don't have a voice, anything like that. I tell you what to do. If you don't do it, you out. I mean, I had a traumatic childhood, but I was told it was the best I could have. So being with her, that caused me to have, she wanted be perfect. So I went through eating disorders. I had to be a model. I had to, it's like I was always representing her. She never taught me to have my own mind because I was hers. So down to, it's really like it didn't make sense. I just didn't want to, nothing made sense because it was all I knew is that my mama was dead, your daddy didn't care, and I owned you pretty much. And so that caused me, living that, and we went to church every church was supposed to be, just to take the pain away, right? But church to us that's where we ate at. If we didn't, if I'm saying it because it's true, we knew we was gonna eat at church. We knew we was gonna have some type of love right there. But when we went back to that house, it was gone. You know what I'm saying? So, and to me, it's like that comfort of love was never there. We just knew. I knew at 18 I was leaving. I didn't have the ideal of, okay, this is my grandmother, this is my family, this is, even anything like that. And the woman that had so much control had control over the whole family. So it was like a dictatorship for me. You know what I'm saying? If you don't do this, nobody else wants you. So, hey, you out. So, that's how my life after losing my mother. So I noticed it more as I got older, started having my own mind. When I tell you she had a plan for me from elementary school, what you're going to do, every subject you're going to learn. That's literally, she had a plan for me after she lost her daughter. I was obligated to do everything that my mother wasn't able to do. So growing up, the grandmother dynamic, because she was my grandmother, my mother, and my godmother, so therefore the people that you like, well, my godmother, it just never made sense because you had all these titles, but you hated me. I wasn't good enough for you, but you had all these titles. The one, oh, I got my godmother. It's the same woman. So who I'm gonna go to? Like who am I gonna go to confine her or feel maybe some type of love that she couldn't give me? She had all these titles and she ran with it. So that caused that mother granddaughter dynamic caused me to run to drugs. It caused me to at 12 run to the streets looking for love. My first time telling my grandmother stuff I love to do just to get on that singing. I was singing my whole life. I did auditions at the door when she locked herself in the room. That was her listening to me. She wouldn't see my face, but I didn't realize this till I got older because I looked so much like my mother, who she abandoned. She couldn't be around me, but I didn't realize this till I got older. You know what I'm saying? So, it's easier to talk about now because I learned how to heal from it. Before I went, I was a total crash out. You know what I'm saying? A total crash out, like nothing made sense. So I feel that now at 41, at first I didn't understand it, but the best thing that she could have did for me was kick me out at 18 because I was able. I feel like I was even my child. I'd rather been in the streets or in custody, and I hate to say it like that because people have traumatic things that they go through. But I feel like I would have been better ward of the state than dealing with stuff like that. So my dynamic, what I went through, is so traumatic to the point like I envision love. I envision if I ever had kids, this is what I was gonna do. So, it's hard to explain because people are like, is that really real? That type of stuff happens. It really does. So I would say my shift became again when I was getting older and I was looking more like the child she abandoned.
I could understand that. Anybody else would like to answer that question? Sister Aisha, when did you first realize that something in the relationship felt strained or unhealthy?
I would probably say maybe my teenage years. I grew up in a blended household. My mom married a man who had his own 4 children from his first wife, and then my mom had my brother from her first marriage, and then they had me supposedly, but we gonna get to that later. um, but I guess at an early age, kind of how my mother kind of treated me and spoke to me amongst my other siblings. There was I had a sister. I have a sister. She's older. One of my dad's kids from his first wife. But I just kind of noticed kind of how she would treat me from the boys a little bit more harder on me, um, a little bit more tougher. Um, I also noticed that she kind of would encourage the boys, like maybe in the morning, like we're eating breakfast, and I'm just like why y'all like bothering me? And she would encourage them to keep like antagonizing me or bothering me. So it's kind of like you want them to fuck with me, you know what I'm saying? And but I really realized it when I got older, because knowing what I know now, I've always been a spiritual woman, always been in tuned, and I just remember just having my mom moving around a lot. I remember growing up, and we moved to my grandmother's house, and then we moved to St. Louis, where my mother is originally from, and then we came back to Houston. And I didn't really know what was going on, because she wasn't really verbally telling us. We were just kind of moving and just going. So it was a lot of confusion around that time. But I realized as I got older in my teens, because when I would get around her, like the energy just felt like stagnant, like it wasn't cohesive. So I realized that she has done enough damage, maybe verbally, to where like I was just kind of quiet. I was a quiet kid. I was actually a GT student, gifted and talented. So I was one of those kids that talked a lot, but I made A's and B's. Okay. I even remember my art teacher saying, you know, she's going to be a motivational speaker one day. She's going to be doing X, Y, Z. But my mother would, on the back end, talk about, you know, how I spoke, and I speak too fast. My family's from Louisiana. You know, I spoke too fast. Or when I say my words, I used to sing my words. Why are you doing that? Why are you talking like that? Why? And so it kind of made my voice shut down a lot growing up. And so when my voice shut down, I started feeling and observing more. So that's when I started to realize like something wasn't right. And I was like, you know, one day I'm going to figure out and find out what's going on. And as I gotten older, a lot of things made sense. And what I'm seeing is that, you know, our mothers, even though they lived their life, they didn't get the opportunity to live the life that they really wanted to live. And because they were not able to live that life and live the life that they wanted to live, they saw an opportunity to not only live that life through us, but also project the things that they did, you know, on us too as well. So, you know, knowing what I know now, you know, it's just me and my brother, but knowing what I know now, my mother had a lot of abortions. She didn't tell anybody. And I found that out later on in my life, maybe in the last 5 years. And it just made me think, you know, did you really want me and my brother? What was your intention of me and my brother? You know, I'll be honest. I know my mother to always want the attention of the male gaze. Okay, it was the male gaze. It was the male attention that she always wanted. So even when he separated from my father, that was my father then, who's still my dad, that raised me, I saw her with different men, and that also affected me and my perception of what's going on, what we doing, who is this, you know, is this reality? This is what we doing, you know. So and there was a lot of, you know, what I say goes, and I was very rebellious in the sense of asking the questions or saying, you know, don't do what I do as I say. But what if what you're doing is not good? Or what if I'm doing something that you're doing? And then it was, you know, it didn't matter. So it was a lot of control, not a narcissistic energy. And essentially, you know, those things played a part in my life too as well, because you're soaking that up. You're a part of that. That's all that you know. And so it really affected me as I gotten a little bit older. And so now that I'm starting to realize with all of her issues and situation steal from, I realized that I was never the problem. It was never me. It was her still trying to navigate through some things that she didn't really was able to use her voice and speak on. So I'll stop there.
Thank you for sharing. Hmm. Do you believe that jealousy can exist between mother and daughter?
Yes,
Have y'all ever had that
Yes.
experience that
yes,
you felt as if your mother was jealous of you?
yes.
Anybody wants to elaborate?
May I? Oh, look.
Yeah.
As I got older, as I got older, I'll just say, the jealousy at first, I didn't realize it was jealousy. I thought it was sort of just tough love and trying to train me and, get me in order and make sure, I followed what she wanted from me. But I noticed as I got older and I got more, everything that she said she didn't like and other people loved it, it got, you talk too much. I don't like how you talk, like you said, you talk too loud, you act this way, you dress this way. Then everybody loved it. Then the problem came. It was the things that people love, she hated. So it was like, why are you mad that people love these things about me? And you try to pinpoint like every little thing about me down from head to toe. So the jealousy was more so you taught me everything, right? Down to where I used to act like her. I mean, people were like, you act just like her. But then you also taught me to not let nobody play with me, right? Don't let nobody lie to you, treat you any type of way. And it was like the reverse came once I used all the things she taught me against to her. You know what I'm saying? Like you taught me not to do that, but now you trying to do that to me. So it was more so as I got older after you tried to pretty much crumble me my whole life. And then the things that you hated, people loved, and it made her boil inside. You know what I'm saying? It made her upset inside because hey, I said that wasn't good about you, so now other people like it. It's like it was a problem. So I would have to say as I got older and making my own decisions and me being right, it made her more mad. When she got older. When I got older. So
My mother hates, and I say hates, and hate is a strong word for people to tell her that she's wrong with anything. She hates it. And I think that's one of the problems there is if she does something wrong, she don't want to hold herself accountable for it. And growing up, I never felt as if she had any type of jealousy towards me. I don't even know if I could even call anything jealousy. I feel like it's a lack of support in, let's say, accomplishments or being there for very important things in my life, even throughout high school, middle school. Oh, I'm working. I can't do this. I can't do that. Okay. So what about on your off days? What about as I gotten older? There was always some kind of excuse. Oh, let's say I can't wear black. I have to wear white. Oh no, it's not that. She just wants to be the center of attention. What? No, that's not the case. So with my mother and a lot of people, a family, period, if it's something that they don't understand, they fear. And that's a little bit of kind of what I'm going through right now. Um, is the lack, and I would say the lack of knowledge, or whenever I say ignorance, I'm not saying ignorant as in a dumb way. I'm saying ignorance in lack of knowing, not knowing something or not trying to understand. And I think that with me, it's a lot of ignorance when it comes to my family. So I recently changed my number, and I have a selective few that I talk to. And some people might share this life to be messy. It is what it is. I didn't do it for that. A lot of my podcast is because it's what's on my mind, or somebody asked me to have the podcast, or I feel like it's a topic that needs to be spoken about within our community. Now, one thing about me is I thank Brother Critical. I know he's watching. I love Brother Critical. Shout out to Brother Critical and the Critical Show. One thing about me is I was teased so badly because I did come from a West Indian family. So I have a on and off type of accent. It's weird because it's kind of like a mixture of Yankee and everything else. And I've always hated public speaking because of that. And so having a podcast is one of my ways of getting over that insecurity and being able to speak the way that I actually speak instead of having to worry about how things come across or how things sound to somebody else, or somebody laughing at me because of the way I pronounce my words. Y'all say veggies, I say vegetables. It is what it is. We eat it all the same. So it's funny to me, but I was teased a lot for that. And this podcast is a way of helping me overcome some things that I held on to for so long, and it created a lot of trauma in my life. And I could say that I am at a point of healing, so I don't take a lot of mess from a lot of people because I'm at that place that I am actually healed, and I'm not anybody's rug. I'm not anybody's. You just can't do me any kind of way. A couple of years ago, maybe so. I'll probably cry if you say something to me. Now I'm like, I just say a choice of words in my head, then take a little bit of honey from the kitchen and put it on my tongue. I just watch what I say. So yeah. But let's get back on topic. Anybody else would like to share? When did you actually feel as if your mother was jealous of you? What happened? What transpired? What was like a certain incident that you remember that you felt like your mother was jealous of you? Asada?
So when I noticed that my mother was jealous of me when I started having my children. um I I don't recall who said this, but somebody said she didn't show affection as their mother didn't show affection as they're growing up. Like I'll say right around when I was about 26 years old when I started having my children. That's when I noticed the jealousy. Um, I watched history repeat itself too. That I had children's services involved, and when I had my children, but I somehow beat the system to keep my children. You know what I'm saying? I fought for my children, not in the way that she fought for me, but I fought for my children to keep my kids together, and I proved that I could take care of my kids. But I noticed the jealousy when I started having my children. When I had my firstborn son, that's when I really started noticing how the jealousy was there, because she would try to give me parental advice. And I mean, I would listen to her. I didn't snap her up like I did when I had got pregnant with Tatiana, but I noticed that when I started having my children that the jealousy was there, because I didn't turn out like her. You know what I'm saying? She thought I was going to repeat the history or repeat that cycle, but I was like, no, I'm going to break this cycle and you know raise my children. But as soon as I started having my kids on my own, That's when I noticed the jealousy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Do you ever feel as if for anybody up on this panel, and I know that some of us don't have kids now, right now, but did you ever notice that they treat the grandchildren better than they ever treated you? Nobody?
For me, my mother treated my brother better than me. Because again, when we separated from like my dad and everything like that, it was just me, my brother, and my mom, and so I noticed that she just treated him a little bit different. She let him get away with a lot of different things, even though he was older than me. He's like 7 years older than me. She was just lackadaisical to the shit that he had going on, you know. Even as far as him, you know, when it was time for him to graduate and it was time for him to go to college, like my father, who's a scientist, was pushing, you know, advocate for education, and my brother's like, I don't want to go, and my mom was like, he don't have to go if he don't want to go, you know. So she was kind of very lenient on him. Um, and for me, she was always being like really, really tough. So even for example, my mom always told me, you know, I'm not taking care of no babies. Don't have no babies. I ain't taking care of no babies. But my brother had a baby, and we took care of it. And he didn't have to
Mm.
take and he had to take care of the baby. And it was so traumatizing for me because here I am. I'm a high school student. I live with my mom. You know, my brother. Um, he lives with my grandmother, and we're raising this baby. You know, because the mother couldn't raise him, and it's like I was forced to become a parent early, and I didn't even ask for the shit, and
Right?
it caused me to, like, there were days where maybe the baby, my nephew slept, and I love my nephew. It's no shade to him. I love him. I love him. But there were days where, like, maybe, you know, you have to watch him. You have to sleep with him. I was like, why? Like, I didn't ask for this baby, you know, and that would cause me to, I would wake up and it'll be third period. I didn't miss my first three classes and different things like that due to, you know, that as well. Or, you know, even when, like, my mother didn't really teach me about sexual education. And these things that she was saying, it really let me know where she was with herself in her life. You know, I never got the birds and the bees talk. I never got the sex talk. I was told, you know, having sex was addicting. If you do, you're gonna want to keep doing
Did you
it.
get did you get the stork talk? Did the stork come down from
No,
the
I didn't get a stork. I didn't get a bee. I
okay?
didn't get I didn't get anything. I got, you know, some bullshit, you know. And again, we have to be we're mindful about, you know, what's being said to us because we soak those things in, and they're not being mindful about those things. And I want to circle back around, because, like you said, our parents, they see us as their reflection, whether it's good or bad. And I want to go back to when I said my mother, you know, had a bunch of different abortions and she didn't really talk about it. And so later on in my life, maybe in the last 5 years, we had a conversation, and it was brought up, and she was like, you know, you never had any abortions. I was like, no, like I never had any kids, like. But that let me know where her mindset was. She's thinking I'm a reflection. I'm her, or she's thinking that she's me. You know what I'm saying? And she's putting these things, and she's throwing her, what's the word? Where can I use her?
Projecting.
Miss Her misuse of her sexual energy, right, onto me, as if like, oh, you're, if I did it, like you're me, so you're doing it too. And it's like, I'm like, no, you know. I've had my mother not show up to my high school graduation due to a man that she was dating. and I didn't have enough tickets. You only get so many tickets when you graduate from high school. And she wanted him to be there. And he was like, I don't have to be there, but it was more for my mama to show off that she's with somebody instead of understanding that I ain't got no more tickets. And she chose not to come to my graduation because of that. And so these are things that her way of spiting me for whatever, she has going on. And so, and I'll give one more instance of just having a jealous mother. I went to Prairie View A&M University. I went there in 2009 and graduated with my bachelor's in 2014. And after my freshman year of college, I came back to stay with her, and the man that she had gotten married to, the man that she didn't come to my graduation for, they had split up. And I think she was still dealing with that, and she projected a lot of that energy onto me. You're not going to be in here laying around. And I'm like, damn, I just finished a whole 2 semesters of college. Like, I need a break. And because I wasn't living in survival mode like she was, it became an issue for her. But lo and behold, not too long later, she ended up enrolling into the same university that I went to. And I also got into the same major that I was in. It was given to Parkers, and I was just like, this can't be my reality. This can't, But as I'm just watching, and I'm just like, trying to get an understanding of what's really going on. It's like my mother, because she got pregnant early. My grandmother had her when she was 15. My mom had my brother when she was 21. You know what I'm saying? And started her family. So she didn't get a chance to go to college and do these things. So here I am breaking the generational curses. I graduated with my diploma. I went to college. I'm going through that. I'm not having no babies. And now, so in one aspect, she's inspired, but on another side, it's envy, it's competition. It was so much competition that we were in the same major, and I needed a particular book, and she had the book. And instead of her letting me use the book, because you didn't need the book no more, she wanted me to pay for the book, buy the book. I'm just like, you're my mom. Just let me use the book, And so these are the things, like, you don't mind seeing me struggle, And so these are the things I started noticing with my mother. So.
Oh, wait.
And I want to say one more thing too before I there's a lot of men on here that's listening, and a lot of times when these crazy social media posts and gender wars and all this shit going on, and men love to say that you ain't have your daddy growing up. Now, I had a daddy. We had our daddies. We didn't have the mothers that we needed in our lives to protect us and make us young women. My daddy was there, and he was full-fledged. I played sports. I read books. I traveled. That wasn't the issue. The issue was when I wasn't with my father, and I got to see who my mother really was on her own. It's surviving. So I'll stop there.
Dr. Naseba, you look sleepy.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock here, but at 10:15. But for me, I don't think there was a jealousy issue. I think it was more of, and you and I have talked about this before. I think it's more of I had a life, whereas they really didn't have anything going on in their life.
Jealous.
And, so I went after high school and college and things, and I went into the military, and I got out of the military, and then I traveled and went to different countries and things. And they were always putting their 2 cents into everything that I was doing in my life. Um, Everything had to be under a microscope. of what was right and what was wrong. And because my sister was 6 years older than me, it was like having two mothers. So when you have an older sister, it makes things very difficult, being the younger one. So, they kind of gang up, and they're like, well, mom said this and that. Says, you're fighting two women instead of just one. So for me, it was a constant intrusion throughout my entire life. I mean, it never ends. It's an ongoing, forever ending. You need to do this better. You need to do that better. It's never being where you should be in life, even though I have everything I need and I've done, great things, but it's still not enough. It's just constant, 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 making bad decision here, make a bad decision there, make a bad decision there. And so finally I got, uh, only really within the past 4 to 5 years is when I basically was like, two tears in a bucket. I'm cool now. I'm like, either you like it or you don't. Really don't care. I mean, I think something happens after the age of 40, that age of enlightenment, and then I always say when you get to 40, you start to not worry about what people think of you, you know? And it just comes after 40. It's just a natural thing that happens. And I'm here to tell y'all, when you get 50, you just really don't care. No, it's like at 40, you don't care what people think about you. And at 50, you just don't care. Like, um, you know what I mean? It's just like, it is what it is. And I realize now that I'm not going to change her. I'm not there. There's nothing I'm going to do, nothing I'm going to say that's going to change these people. I'm going to have to let them be who they are over there.
Hmm.
So,
So, I don't want to hold you too long, doctor, because I know that you have work in the morning. So, if you have to jump off, go ahead and jump off. We'll continue our conversation for a bit. So, if you need to hop off, go ahead and just, we thank you for joining and telling your story and helping us as well as others.
all right, party people. Y'all go ahead and finish on up, and we'll chat again.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
So,
Good night.
to the rest
Good
of
night.
the beautiful women on the panel, how did this dynamic affect your confidence, identity, and relationship with other women?
I would have to say this conflict of the dynamic that my grandmother caused made me feel like real insecure on a lot of different things. Plus, I guess being in the area where I was raised, that there was nobody that looked like me, so I was already going through the outside things. So there's no black people, no hair care product. There's nothing to identify with. On top of, I wasn't good enough for my own grandmother at home. So society and home, there was nothing. You know, so it caused for me to hide who I was. I always feel like I was not good enough if I speak, or if I was body conscious. Like I said, I went through eating disorders just to appease to what she wanted me to look like. So it was always this identity crisis that I had based on how she made me feel at a younger age. The way she treated me. Okay, you didn't take me to, like you were talking about before. She didn't take me to the doctor's office. You dropped me off at the corner, and I walked the rest of the way by myself and walked home. You weren't. It wasn't. It wasn't any. I was never taught that I was valuable. I was never taught I was beautiful. I was taught that I want you to look like this. I want you to act like that, and that's what it is. I never was taught anything else but that. So it caused me to have identity everywhere I went. Down to where they diagnosed me with multiple personality disorders, because it's like, who am I? I got diagnosed with that. You know what I'm saying? So the relationship with her caused a lot of dysfunction in my life, even now at 41, trying to figure out, do I have a voice? You know what I'm saying? Do I, even at 41 years old, it's really hard. So I would have to say, even now, like, I'm just now getting comfortable with being around women that look like me, of color. You know what I'm saying? Because I was ripped from anything for me to even learn who I was. So these platforms like this is like, okay, I'm actually able to, I'm not the white girl. I'm enough. I can speak to you, and no matter if I put the wig on, if I put the makeup on, I'm me. I didn't have that growing up. You had to be this way, dress this way, act this way. I mean, so I feel now, by getting older and being able to heal and talk about it, I'm glad that she did it. I know it sounds crazy. I'm glad that she did it because I'm able to do, I'm stronger now going through that. But before I was very insecure. I didn't know what beauty was. I only believed I was beautiful when somebody else told me. I didn't feel it in myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I needed her to tell me I'm beautiful for me to feel it. So I feel that really, it really hurt me. But now, once I learned, once like I said, it took a long time, but once you stop the lie and realize who you really are, you get to heal a different way to where it's like, that was a lie. I don't feel that way. I am enough. I'm good enough. But everything rooted from as a child with her, where everything after that, I didn't feel enough. And I can say now, you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, what she taught me was to be strong. I can say from her treating me bad, I learned how to make it. I learned how to do everything. I learned how to speak up for myself now, even though I wasn't able to speak when I was a child. I know how to speak now and heal myself from her, from the person that was the most traumatic to me. So, I say that yes, that insecurity, but I also learned from her being traumatic how to, get it together. But as like I say, even now it's still like, do I got it? Do I got it? I got it, but do I got it? You still thinking about you need somebody to tell you. So, that's what I would say I got from it, the insecurities and not feeling like I have a voice, but I really do, stuff like that.
What about you, Asada? Because you've been kind of quiet.
I'm listening. Um, it affected my self-esteem really bad. I would how I would interact with other people, other females. I wouldn't look nobody in the eye, wouldn't give nobody direct eye contact, always held my head down. I mean, I still do, even at 45 years old. Sometimes I try to remind myself to hold your head up and, give eye contact. But I mean, it affected my self-esteem greatly to the point I've had been diagnosed with depression and PTSD and anxiety and you know I I mean I avoid places. I mean I still do. Even now to this day, I avoid places that are triggers. I mean it affected me greatly all across the board. But I think it affected my self-esteem most of all to where, I'd be so depressed some days. I mean, I have good days and have bad days, but my self-esteem, I just think I don't ever think I'm gonna ever shake that. I don't ever, I try to get past it, but I don't think I'm gonna ever shake that. And even at almost 46 years old, I think I'm gonna struggle with that for the rest of my life because I just think it's something from as a child that I haven't even shook it as a kid. So I just think there's some things you just never gonna ever get over in life or shake. So, but it affected my self esteem really bad. You know.
I wouldn't claim that you would never get over it. I understand that's the way you may feel, and I can't tell you how to feel. Have you ever tried counseling?
I mean, I've tried everything, everything. You know, um, I've tried medication. I've tried counseling. What I'm saying? I think it just stems. I think it stems from the abandonment. The rejection, the abandonment issues. I mean, like I said, some days are better than others. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna claim that either. I'm about to take that back later on, but I'm not gonna claim that either. But it's just like it. Sometimes I have a profound sadness. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah,
And
we're here.
I mean,
We're here for you.
I'm sorry. I just
Don't be
struggle so
sorry.
much.
Mm-mm.
I struggle so much because I, as days go by, I try not to really let things get to me stemming from my childhood, but sometimes it's hard. And even when I talk to my mother about it, like my mother, she's like, "Oh, I went through my counseling. I got my closure." But I'm like, "What about my closure?" I never even once got that. Like I said, she never hugged me. I think it affected me. I think it shook my spirit. You know what I'm saying? It shook my soul because it's like things that you shouldn't endure as a young child. And you still. I mean, I'm still dealing with it. You
She may
know,
have
but
gotten her closure, but she hasn't gotten her healing if she's still treating you the way she treats you. And
yeah,
I'm
she
gonna
don't
say
even.
that
I remember you asked a question about how does she treat the grandkids. Like I said, she don't remember my kids' birthdays, and I think that, and somebody said that they treated their brother better than they treated me. My brother was the golden child. You know what I'm saying? And now that my brother is not in the state of Ohio, now she's kind of like flocking towards me. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't want that responsibility. But then, I don't have a mean bone in my body to do my mother the way that she's done me. But it's like, what choice do I have? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't tell her that she hurt me, and I just let it go because it's like she's not gonna never take accountability. So, but
and I
it
think
really
that
affected me a great deal.
and I think that's a lot of the problem and a lot of the problem with a lot of this. And I y'all don't kick me in my rear end for this, but this is why a lot of men say that women don't have accountability. We don't like to take accountability. And I can't say that my mother was a bad mother or is a bad mother. She just has some things that she needs to work on. I think that we all have some things that we need to work on, but
Right.
uh, it's some things that I just can't really say because I told myself before this live started, just like I told you all, I have to be mindful of what I say because I don't want to say anything that I'll ever regret. So right now I'm just taking a little time to kind of get over some things that were said, some untruths, um, some hurtful things. And my grandmother just passed, so I know some of it may be grief, but it was some stuff taking place before that I noticed. And to be honest, some of the things that were said is not even excusable. It's just crazy. Some things I wouldn't have said to none of my children. So um,
Right.
mm,
Well, I have a
May I
question
say something?
for
Oh,
for
yeah.
everybody. Right.
yeah. Go ahead.
I have a question for everybody since everybody's story. This is a quick question. Everybody has their own story about everything. And it's always with somebody that's before us who was supposed to do something, right? This should have stopped with them. Are you at a point in your life where you're able to heal without an apology?
Yeah,
Without that apology that you're really seeking, are you able to heal without that? And that's a lot of people are still waiting for
yeah,
something to change and knowing that it's not going to change. And I say these things
yeah,
because we can go to counseling, we can do everything we got to do. The counseling still not going to get us coaching ready to be okay with the end result. They're going to tell you things like, okay, it's going to be, but are you okay with knowing that no matter you have all the reasons to want an apology? Oh, I'm going to do that. You know that's going to stop your growth if you still waiting on that apology. If you're going to wait on that, know that you're waiting on a lost cause and you're not going to get to that goal. I had to learn that. Without sitting here trying to say I know everything, I had to go through life really make things sense. I'm not going to get an apology from the people that hurt me. Even if they're
What's
looking in your face right now. Mine are dead and gone. They're not gonna give me an apology. So
Yeah,
it's
and
accepting that. To that acceptance is it may seem like, dang, am I really supposed to accept that? But really, you have to. You have to accept it happened, and they're not gonna. The one that hurt me the most is not going to apologize, but and move on with that and get that healing to know they're not gonna say the truth. So I'm gonna let go and move forward. I ask that because a lot of times we're not.
Uh,
We can't move on because we're waiting on that apology.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm
That's
a,
actually. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say that was actually what I was gonna say. Because I've definitely been there. I've done that. I've had the opportunity to have my mother open up about certain things, and some things she just won't. Some things she's not going to take accountability for because in her eyes, it happened so long ago. Why does it matter?
Oh
It
my
matters
gosh, yes.
because if you don't acknowledge what you did to me, you can acknowledge what happened to you, and all it is a cycle. Because when I look back at my mother and see how she treated me and what she did, I look back at my grandmother and I see, oh, this is the same way she treated my mom and my uncle. She treated my uncle and my mom separately, still to this day. My uncle is grown ass man in his 50s. He'll come over there and she'll be like, baby, you want me to make you an egg sandwich? Like that man a girl, let him make his own damn egg sandwich. Like he's grown. But it just shows, the attention of the male energy, not having that and needing that. It just shows that. And my grandmother did it, my mom did it, you know what I'm saying? And so more recently, I thought me and my mom was making amends, because I used to live in Mexico and I lived there for 2 years because I was on my healing journey. And she came out and she visited me for a week, 7 whole days. I mean, I think she enjoyed herself. We had a good time. We did some healing work. We talked, and everything was everything. But when I decided to come back to Houston, and I was transitioning to travel again, I wasn't all at her house for all of 11 days before she was ready to put me out. And not because I was doing anything wrong, but because back home she was in survival mode where I was kind of like still in vacation mode. So me being able to, as she's watching the other kids that she chose to take care of, foster, because I'm able to do what I want. I can leave and go as I want. I don't have to sit at the house. And she probably like, man, I want to leave. I want to go do this, but I can't. And so instead of her find something else to do with her time and her energy, she projected it onto me. So I became a problem or a burden to a point to where she was like, she was talking to her foster kids, and they're younger kids, and she was in a mode of fussing. And so she ended up kind of raising her voice at me. Now, this is just 2 years ago. I'm 35 at midnight. So it was just 2 years ago. And I asked her, like, hey, I was like, Mom, I understand you doing your foster kid thing, and I don't plan on being here long, but all I ask is that if you could just be mindful about how you talk to me, you know what I'm saying? And days later, she had to revisit that because in her eyes, she thought that was disrespectful. Because it's like, who are you to tell me I can't talk to you how I want to talk to you? Boundaries. Oh, don't give boundaries. You know what I'm saying? So that was new for her, and as well as me being in her house saying it. And so all that turned into, if you don't like how I talk, you can get out. I don't care where you go. You can live under a bridge, and all these negative things. And where I stepped outside the house to make a phone call, so I could leave. And I guess I wasn't moving fast enough for her because she wanted that control. So she threw all of my stuff outside
Oh
the front door.
wow.
And this is just recently. And I had to realize, like, that had absolutely nothing to do with me. She's struggling and she's trying to survive. And instead of her using her words to say, Aisha, I need your support. Aisha, I need a little bit of extra financial, help. You made it seem like I was a burden. And so these are the things, that we deal with. And so I've never, my mom doesn't really call me. If I think about her and I have the urge to call her, I will. But I'm not going to go out my way if you're not. And that has been a lot of my story. When things have happened, when she has been in the wrong, I've always been the quote unquote bigger person. I've always been the person to come around and make amends. But I said, I'm not doing that anymore. And I remember her saying, well, you know how I am, Aisha. You know how I am. And I was like, you know what? I do know how you are. And I kept trying to change her or make her see things differently when she is who she is. And she's kept saying that. And so I stopped trying to change her and make her different. And I just let her be who she is. I changed myself. I learned how to navigate and use my tools to navigate her different insecurities or her projections. So now before it's happening, I already see what she's doing. So I'm like, okay, I see the jab. Let me, either I'm gonna hit her with a right hook or I'm gonna slip and I'm gonna leave. Cause them my options. I'm gonna roll off my shoulder or I'm gonna hit back verbally, and so I chose to choose my words wisely and understand that it's not me, it's my mother and sister Asada. I would encourage you too. I think having more circles and things like this with other women who you trust, and who you can confide in will be very healing, because like sister said, you may never get that apology, but the highest thing next to love is forgiveness. And so we have to forgive so we can be able to heal and let go so we can live the next chapter of our life. So I just want to encourage you, to find some sisters where you are, or continue to reach out to us right here on this call and continue to have this conversation so we can open up and release and heal, because these things do cause an effect in our relationships. Men, women, luckily I was a confident kid growing up, but I had a lot of brothers. I had 4 brothers, so I was rough. I grew up a tomboy. I grew up rough. I grew up aggressive. So that's where a lot of my maybe aggressive energy come from, or I like hanging with the boys, but also I had to learn to embrace my feminine energy, which I wasn't taught that. My mom was in her masculine. When you're surviving, you're in masculine energy. I saw my mama always in survivor mode. And so that put me in survival mode, and so these are learned behaviors. And when I was able to unlearn these things and really tap into my feminine energy, I realized that I wasn't doing this right. I wasn't saying this right. Oh, I learned this from this. Oh, she learned that from that. Let me unlearn that. Let me not change them, but let me change myself. So that's it.
I love that. I noticed once I started setting boundaries for myself, that's when I started having the issues. Whenever I told my mother, because she likes to yell a lot, and I told her, I was like, it was something she had said one day. I said, I feel like that's very disrespectful. And she was very taken back by it. And I said it in the same tone that I'm saying it now. I feel like that was very disrespectful. That was very rude. And she was like, what did you tell me? That was very disrespectful. I felt like you should have said that better. So she took a little time to think about it. Now I will say this: the next day she called and apologized, but then the same thing happened again. Then it happened again. Then it happened again. I remember like a couple of years ago, she was telling me, natural. She was like, one day you're gonna get tired of people. You're gonna get tired of the way that people treat you, because I was always like, you know how I am. I could be the peacemaker at times and try to, help people through their situations, or or try to, make amends with people. And she told me, she was like, one day you're gonna get tired of all that and you're not gonna care anymore. But she didn't know that she was gonna be part of that equation. So I'm not gonna say that I don't love my mom, but I'm at peace. I'm at peace and it is what it is. I am at peace. But it's times that I would get like a little bit of good news, and I'm used to picking up the phone and calling her. And this is a sad part about it, right? I would get the good news, and I'll pick up my phone, and then I'll be like, oh, then I'll put it right back down. I can't call you because you're not gonna answer. And the crazy thing is, you said something crazy to me, but instead of apologizing to me, you want me to apologize to you. Like, how does that work? I'm the type of person that if I don't feel sorry, I'm not going to apologize to you. Why would you want me to apologize for something and I don't mean it? That's crazy to me. I didn't do anything to disrespect you. I said what was on my mind. I said it very respectfully. And Trinidadians, you can't tell them nothing. If you say something that go against what they feel, you're disrespectful. But I owe her an apology somehow. And I told her she's not going to get that apology. And I meant that. I meant what I said. I'm standing on it. And it's sad because I don't know. Boundaries, man. Boundaries. You can't allow anybody to treat you any kind of way. I don't care who it is. But
Well, the
those
thing is, I'm sorry, sis. The thing is, they still see us as little children, as little girls, even though we're grown women. But I heard my mother say, I was like, you know what, I'm a grown about the whole conversation as far as like how she spoke to me. I said, well, mom, I'm 33 years old. And around this time, I'm like, hey, like, and she's like, will you always be my little girl? I was like, but that's the problem. I'm not your little girl because the little girl Aisha let you say and do certain things that I didn't have a voice to stand up for myself. But the grown Aisha gonna cuss you out because you playing
course.
with me. But I never cussed my mother out. I never cussed her out. But I'm just saying, like, there have been times where she's done certain things or said certain things,
In my
or in
head.
front of people,
Can't do
and
that to me.
I had to respond to her and let her know like that wasn't cool to say. And when she realized that I wasn't playing, she stopped doing what she was doing. So they still think we're little girls. They still see the little girl in us and not the grown woman. And the little girl in us allowed them to do and treat us however they want to treat us. But now as a grown woman, you can't do that anymore. How dare you tell me I can't hurt you and talk to you crazy and verbally abuse you? You know what I'm saying? It's because I've been doing it for so long. That's all they know.
Hmm. So,
But
what?
I'm not gonna say that's all mothers. I'm gonna say a lot of these are the mothers, the wounded, the wounded mothers, the wounded ones who didn't get the healing that they needed. So yeah.
Yeah. So I see sisters Tanisha, she said same eldest daughter. I'm gonna start going through some of the comments real quick. Brother Critical, he said excellent topic and show. Hilda Castro, I will be praying for you and hope everything goes better for you. Tay, them, I'm just saying, wasn't bills when you got there. You be outside. uh Brother Ken said, better said than done. Shorty at the bottom, still waiting on closure, and frankly, I don't blame her. I get that. I get that. And Jade Toko 5346. And this is a fact. Anything you say contrary to what they say is deemed disrespectful. Oh my gosh, you ain't lying.
Right.
And he also said, I think this is a he, we need sisters to have this conversation with each other. Bravo. And my baby Shango was telling y'all to please hit that like button and share with a friend. on
And I
on
always,
Facebook, and on YouTube as well, because we need more followers on YouTube. We need more likes on YouTube. Get those likes up. Uh, Sparkle said the abandonment issues are hard, and she struggles with that. Renee says you're not alone. Brother Critical said being without any parent is crucial. There's a lot of supportive comments. Oh, okay. Baba Black, Brother Bamalike. Okay.
I want to share this too, Sister Natural, if you don't mind. I want to just show this book. I have it right here. It's a great book by Sister Karina Fua, The Sacred Woman. A Guide to Healing the Feminine Body, Mind, Body, and Spirit. And it's a great book. The first part is very in depth. It just takes you through, ancient Africa is where we come from. But this is a great book for women who are on their healing journey, healing their mind, their body, and their spirit. A lot of things do come from our childhood trauma, whether it's from our parents, different things that we were involved in, maybe molestation and different things. And this book really helps create rituals weekly and daily for you to heal yourself, and tap in with, and release too as well. It's a very healing book. I'm actually going to be starting a sister circle soon in Houston in March. And so I would encourage other sisters and men too to tap in and read this book. And for the brothers that's watching, everything is not what it seems. And I hope this conversation, opens up a lot of y'all's mind when it comes to women and things that we're dealing with. A lot of times it don't be because we didn't have daddies. It be the mothers and seeing them navigate through things and becoming a reflection of that. Now that becomes our reality. And then until we realize, damn, like this is not who I am or not who I want to be. And so I appreciate this natural. It was great. It was powerful. It was healing for me. And very vulnerable. And I know that many people that are listening, they got some healing too.
Thank you. I do want to thank everybody for coming on again. And this was very hard for me. This was a very hard topic for me to speak on. For one, because I'm not used to this type of treatment. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm new to this. Hopefully, one day my mother and I can start our healing journey. It's been a lot. We just had a death in the family. Um, but right now I'm at peace, and I would never say, "Oh, I would never speak to again." I'm not going to say anything like that, but I'm going to say that I'm going to stay over here until you get your mind right. Once you get your mind right, and we can have an actual conversation and an honest conversation, then we could start building from there. But I do want to share a little bit of advice to you all, to as I talk to y'all, I speak to myself, and for the listeners out there as well. you know I We need to stop carrying guilt that don't belong to us. For one, stop carrying guilt that don't belong to us. Boundaries
All
are
right.
protection. That's the way that we protect ourselves. Boundaries are not punishment. It's not punishment to anybody else. It's not punishment for us. It's protection. Okay, so we are allowed to grow without permission. We don't need nobody's permission to grow. That's for us. So love does not require self abandonment. No, take care of you. You, at the end of the day, no matter who's around you, you have to take care of you first. You can't pour into an empty cup. You have to be full. So choosing peace is not betrayal. It's It's what you need in order to survive. Name what you feel, say what you feel without shame. Silence does not heal. Sometimes you have to speak up. You know how to say closed mouths don't get fed. You have to
Right.
speak up in order for people to understand you. And as I close this conversation, I want to remind everyone that's listening, including ourselves, that truth is not disrespectful. We have to stop looking at as if when we say something that we being intentionally disrespectful. It's a way that we liberate ourselves. And it's difficult talking about mother and daughter relationships. And it doesn't mean that we hate our mothers. It doesn't mean that we're perfect. It doesn't mean that we have everything all together. It means that we are brave enough to acknowledge the impact of unhealed pain and unhealed trauma. So some mothers I feel did their best or think that they did their best and did their best with what they had. Some of us daughters are still paying the price for what was never healed, what was never healed in them. And so we're responsible for our healing. So healing begins when we stop pretending like everything's okay. So when we stop gaslighting ourselves, when we stop protecting narratives that harm us, it's just like I said, I can't be your scapegoat anymore. Those were narratives that harmed me, that affected me. I had to stop that. I had to say no more, right? So if you are a daughter, you need to learn how to choose yourself. You're not wrong for choosing yourself. You're not wrong for choosing your peace. So if you are a mother willing to, you know, just if you are a mother willing to reflect and heal, then that's a courageous step. And that's your first step. So change begins with honesty and honest conversations like we're having now. So I want to thank all of you beautiful women for sharing your stories, your truth, your strength, being vulnerable, your weaknesses. And I don't really want to say weaknesses, but things that we need to work on. But I also thank you, our listeners. I want to thank our listeners for willing to sit through this. I know this was a long live and it was an uncomfortable live with a lot of uncomfortable truth, but that's what we do here, right? And it's in the name of growth. So this is I thought we want to change, and this is what change sounds like. So until next time, peace.